think I'm usually someone to speak up.
I do feel comfortable speaking in public, yeah. I guess it's just, I don't know, I guess I'm a very loud person, I guess you can say. And I guess that kind of contributes to be able to speak in public pretty well. So yeah, I feel comfortable doing it.
Depends on the number of the people. I do get really shy and nervous talking in public.
Speaking is a very deliberate act for me. I speak to myself when I reflect upon things and when I can't find stuff, for example.
Uncomfortable. Because I'm not a good public speaker.
Kind of, not really. Sometimes, depends on the day, honestly. I think like my accent sometimes, I'm like not feeling it, but other days it's fine.
It's probably like a little bit out of fear. Yeah, I would be honest about that. I know I said before that I'm able to speak in public pretty well, but it also depends on what I'm saying as well. Because if it has something to do with like that, I hesitate a little bit.
I do speak up. If I don't like that person, I'll be like, hey, here's something you did wrong. I don't like that, and yeah.
It should be a guaranteed thing. That's at least how I was taught and educated, and apply to more cultures and more generations rather than a specific community, which I feel like is an issue, especially where I come from.
It's a necessary human right. I think everyone should have the ability to speak.
I think it's fucking dope. It's a good thing. I think whatever you think, you just gotta pour it out.
A lot of people don't have that in different countries, and in some ways, underrepresented people in America.
I think that's important. I come from a place where that's not an option. I feel like a lot of people here take it for granted to be able to express their opinions. Again, where I come from, it's not really an option, so that's a luxury for me.
I do understand censorship. As somebody who wants to go into a media field, I understand why certain things would be censored, just to not affect minorities or certain groups in a negative way. I understand why sometimes freedom of speech needs to be limited, but unless it's to prevent harm for anyone, I don't think that freedom of speech should be hindered upon.
You have to have a standpoint. Why you cursing to that person? Is that person belief is very bad, or you just don't disagree with them? But I don't think humiliating and insulting anyone can be any useful to yourself.
There is very limited freedom in speech, because when you talk, you all the thoughts in your head are expressed through words, and a lot of times most of the time society restricts how you think, and that sort of restriction really controls the freedom. So as long as there is structure, I think there is there is limited freedom for speech.
We are able to say what we want to say, but it depends on what we say. Because obviously, if you make a threat to the president, that's going to be noticed, or a threat to, shoot someplace up, that's going to get noticed. So I feel fine with it, but yet again, there are limitations to it. So it's really not freedom of speech, because there are little limitations.
I feel like everybody has an opinion and everybody has a voice. So I feel like everybody should voice their opinions, but it should be in a way that it doesn't offend anybody. But that doesn't mean that anybody should be stopped to say something.
There should be a right to voice hatred as well, but not there's a difference between a hate crime and hate speech. I don't necessarily agree with every hatred speech. I think there should be some, but then I don't know where to draw the line, on the sections of hatred speech.
And I do feel like all opinions are opinions, but if one opinion should be criticized, the criticism should be taken seriously.
Voicing your opinions can be done in a respectful way where you can let the other person know what you feel. I can't say to what extent it is right or wrong because everything has two sides to it. So it's like, I don't know.
Even if it's hate speech, they still have the right to say it. Even though in other people's minds it's wrong, to them it feels right. And I can't judge them for that.
I think it shouldn't be confused with freedom of speech because sometimes some people just say some stuff just for the sake of getting attention. Again, I guess when you have the freedom to say anything, different people have different opinions, it's bound to happen. But sometimes, again, people say stuff just to grab somebody's attention, and that's just not, again, that's it's just exploiting the privilege that they have.
I mean, as a kid, like just being on the bus and watching like older people bullying even older people, like I just felt out of context and weaker, and like I learned from it in that it was wrong, but I wasn't able to stand up. I mean, I was like one of the few kids that would like tell the bus driver like to like stop or like tell them what's going on, but like it just, in that situation, I guess, being at a weaker stance, it was difficult.
I was one of the few people who was not 18 at the time, and everybody else was at least 5 or 6 years older than me that was involved in the conflict. So I felt like it was just not my place as somebody who was not even seen as an adult to involve myself. And it basically seemed like a conversation for the adults, and all children, which at the time that was what I was considered to be, should not be involved. And of course I could have gone out of my way and still spoken up about it, but I felt like the situation was just under control with the adults.
There have been instances like that. I can't pinpoint like a particular one, but then I'm pretty sure the reason why I didn't speak up was the fact that I didn't feel like it was my place to say anything, and I just kept the opinion to myself and like left my way of thinking.
I would say I'm not someone to like post on social media a lot about my political values and stuff. I'm kind of just drawn back by if it will send as much of a message. I like still follow accounts that do, and like I share like in like a personal context, I guess. I think it can be really helpful, especially if like even in the underbelly of like just sharing a post, like underneath, like telling your friends about a movement, or